Again, welcome to this session, and happy to share with you a bit of my experience. And since we are quite a crowd here, could you please write in the chat box where are you from? But I mean, where are you from? Your cultural background, referring to your cultural background, which culture you subscribe to. It can be your ethnic culture, it can be your national culture, it can be the culture of your religion. I see we have Polish people and from Nigeria, Argentina, amazing actually. We are a global team. And it's a great community to discuss Polish and German cultural background, Turkish, Western universalism. Great. So so we are a perfect team, and definitely if this was face to face, we would have great conversations. Greek and French. Yes, so you see, culture is not a black and white answer, not a black and white topic to discuss, because we may have different identities. Why is it that I suggested this topic about Western cultures and the rest of the world? Mainly because I have struggled myself many years in many projects. As you can see, I am a project manager and I am also an academic teacher. And I worked on projects in different markets. I worked for 3 years in the Middle East. I led a team of colleagues from Zanzibar, India, and Oman. And we cooperated closely with American colleagues. So I think I have some insights to share with you that hopefully will be useful for you, maybe tomorrow or maybe one day. And the picture you can see here, it's a picture I got from an Omani friend. He actually had it as his profile picture. And I believe it is a beautiful metaphor of collective cultures. It's a peeled orange. And the key concept that I would like to share with you is the difference between collective cultures and individualistic cultures. Collectivism and individualism, it may have some associations related to politics, but it's not what we are about to talk today. And for me, very many times when I think about what is the difference in values and how actually my colleagues from Africa or from somewhere in India or Latin America, that they may basically have a different mindset and different perception of priorities and values because of this main difference. So what collectivism is about? This concept refers to psychology and sociology, and basically, as this beautiful pictures illustrates it, when people are born in collective cultures, they are treated as belonging to their tribe, their village, their extended family, and their identity is mostly a in-group identity. Their identity is the we identity, and it's normal in those kind of cultures actually to sacrifice what you want for the good of the group, and it's good to merge with the group. For collectivist cultures, people who are from outside their tribe are excluded to some extent, are the outgroup, are different people, may be seen as strangers. And there should be no competition within groups. Competition is between the groups, but within the group, we cultivate harmony. We make everybody to feel welcome and admired and cherished and accepted, because harmony is important for the group to survive, to be happy, to prosper, to avoid friction. And as a logical consequence, relationships come first. Tasks, work goals come second, or maybe even third. And I will be speaking from the position of Western cultures, because all my international experience actually made me learn more about my Polish cultural background, made me understand it better and deeper. And I did realize that I am a representative of an individualistic culture. So in individualistic cultures, we believe we take care of ourselves. We are responsible for ourselves, less for the group. And we believe that other people are just individuals. They have the same rights, and they basically also should take care of themselves. So the group links, ties are very loose. And this reminds me of one of my very good friends from Denmark. And during this vacation, his daughter came from the States for 1 month, and she basically just kept calling him. They never met in person. So because this is the perception of family relations. Once you are an adult, you are independent and you take care of yourself. So in individualist cultures, we are more the I people. We have the I identity. And competition between individuals is absolutely fine. Tasks come first, and confrontation is also good. It may even bring some progress. Given this, what would be your guesses? Which cultures in the world are the individualistic cultures? Yes, of course, Western cultures, absolutely. Any guess about a specific country? Yes, Gabrielle, you're absolutely right. And it's of no surprise that in those cultures, basically I is written with a capital letter, like in English. So you will see now the list that I prepared for you and this map. This map shows some research from the 70s, and the darker the color, the more individualistic is the culture, the more the I values prevail in those cultures. The US, Great Britain, Australia, Western Europe, Western culture. Here you can see the lists that I prepared for you based on some more recent research from 2015. And you will see the individualist cultures: United States, Australia, Netherlands, Hungary, New Zealand, Italy, Denmark, France, Scandinavia, Scandinavian countries. Poland is also there. Israel. I put it here as something interesting because it's a kind of like African, Asian country in between, yet still on the side of individualism. And collective cultures, as you may remember from the description of this session, 70% of the global population are people who believe, who were actually raised in the cultures of collective values. And Guatemala is at the very, very top. By the way, this is the country in the world that has the highest percentage of native people. And we see here Indonesia, Taiwan, China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Chile, all the Arab countries, Mediterranean countries. I would like to show you also some different approaches, but just to show you that it's not just an opinion of one researcher, or it's not my opinion. It actually has been confirmed by so many different people that there is a lot in common between certain groups of countries. And if you look at this map, you will see Protestant Europe and English-speaking countries, and those are the individualistic countries. Here they are called self-expression values countries. What does it mean? It means basically that people in those countries have tolerance to people who are different, because it is accepted to be different. It is accepted to maybe be gay, a lesbian, a foreigner. And there is a rising demand for freedom of speech and decision-making, participation in politics and economic life. And the collective cultures are more on the side of survivor family values and strong religion conservative values. And you may ask yourself a question. I used to ask myself a question: if countries, when they grow over time, if they can maybe move more towards being individualistic countries. And yes and no, it could be actually another presentation, another session, but in general, yes. And it depends on the wealth. The wealthier the country, the more individualism will grow there, and the less people will depend on their village, on their tribe, on their in-group. I wanted to show you actually how it is dynamic, how the culture can be dynamic. And let me share with you this map that perfectly illustrates that cultures actually change. Hope you can see it now. This is showing research done in 6 waves between 1981 and 2000, I think 12. So you see actually the cultures evolve, and some cultures move more towards individualism. I am showing it because I just believe it's very interesting to know. It is not easy to observe it from generation to generation, but altogether, wealth and economic growth moves countries towards individualism. And just another bit of a different perspective of cultures. This shows how an English teacher, along his career, researched 50,000 executives in almost 70 countries. And here again, you see those collective cultures, but they have a lot in common. And what did he notice? He noticed that people in those collective cultures, they pay attention to family, to feelings, to creation of positive social atmosphere. They don't care that much about agendas and deadlines. They want to harmonize. Empathy is important. Respect dignity of other people. They are good listeners. So definitely there are differences between Western culture and individual culture, so-called, and collective culture. So what is in it for us? How we can use it for our cross-cultural teams? And interestingly, you should know that the man who started this kind of research and who actually introduced the term collectivism and individualism, Gerhard Hofstede, he did his research for actually IT companies branches around the world. So yeah, definitely there is a lot of need in those backgrounds also for this kind of understanding of culture. As I mentioned, I struggled many times in many situations with my cross-cultural intelligence, and I know how important it is to be situation smart, how important it is if you work with colleagues from China or Africa, born there, educated there, or if you need to close a deal, or if you have online cooperation now, how important it is to make sure that you understand people, that they understand your intentions, that situations are predictable for you, because this means we can be successful as a team. And I will give you just a few hints that relate to collectivism and our Western point of view and our Western expectations about how teamwork and how work environment should be like. So one of the first things I would like to comment on are meetings. Believe me, I was puzzled many times participating in meetings dominated by collective cultures when there was just one person, the boss, talking, and everybody else was there just looking at their shoes. It was completely opposite to my perception of good meeting, a good behavior in a meeting. And why is it? Why people from collective cultures sometimes may actually avoid confronting, voicing their opinion, speaking up if they disagree? They just are there to listen. As you remember, there is this concept of harmony, the concept of respect, the concept of being part of the group, not disagree. Some people actually argue that we have all this technological advancement in 20th century and now 21st century because of the US and Western Europe being an individualistic culture, where we actually believe it's good to be ambitious, to show I am different, I am better, I can compete, I will show you that I can do better. While in collective cultures, you are always trying to merge with the group, avoid any friction. So here you can also see that this specific aspect, confrontation, avoidance of confrontation, was researched in work environments, and you will see that collective cultures, Indonesia, Thailand, African, Arab cultures, actually avoid confrontation. What does it mean? How I tried to handle some situations. Whenever I was a boss, and I wanted the meeting to get some good results, I sometimes considered leaving the meeting, just giving them an assignment, because I knew that my seniority, even though formal, may actually impact their behavior and there would be no good outcome. Another hint was that whenever I knew that there was a decision to be taken in a meeting, regardless if I was leading the meeting or if I was just participating, I knew it was good to have before the meeting like my one-to-one, my private meetings with the people. And then when they knew what they were expected to do, when they knew what they were expected to say, they actually behaved naturally in those meetings. It was no discomfort for them. Another thing very important is giving feedback, commenting on outcomes of our work, on the results, even on those regular meetings. In collective cultures, you may be familiar with this concept of saving face, of the concept of shame. In groups, in tribes, it's very, very important to prevent anybody from being disrespected. Yeah, that's like of utmost importance. So this is why in many cultures we don't give direct feedback, we don't criticize. I had to understand, read between the lines when actually no or yeah, when basically yes means no, or sometimes no means yes, especially when yes means no, because people would not object, would not criticize in the meeting anybody's work, because it would mean just for them to do something very harmful that could not be actually made up for later. And here you can also see a specific research on that topic, giving feedback. And again, you can notice on the right-hand side that collective cultures are the cultures where we avoid giving direct feedback, criticizing. So what can we do? We definitely try to do it in private meetings. We definitely use all kind of, even if it is in a private meeting, downgraders. We may on purpose use all kind of understatement. For example, we are not quite there yet, and of course the other person will understand this is nowhere close to complete. And very often also I learned that I was just covering the good things and leaving out the bad. And the people would understand the meaning. They would understand that the work, the results were not accepted. So it's very, very sensitive. We can do a lot of we could do a lot of harm actually not respecting those rules. Another hint that I wanted to share with you is power distance. In collective cultures, hierarchy is often accepted. It is accepted that some people in the group may have different rights, different privileges. And there are therefore different expectations regarding the position of team leader. In the position of team leader, I was supposed to know all the answers, to make decisions without consulting the team, to be maybe sometimes to some extent even authoritarian. And it's sometimes very important to show the status, in a way how we dress, the car we drive. So it is fine if in Denmark or Sweden a boss cycles to work, but it's unthinkable in China or in any Arab country. So we need to always remember, be on the watch out actually, what are the expectations of our colleagues, what are their habits. And another thing that I also faced myself quite frequently is that in collective cultures, sometimes positions are given not based on work experience, education, or merits, but based on seniority or even family connections. I had on my team a girl, she was from Zanzibar, and she was not willing to contribute much to our work, to our project. And it was partially because she didn't want to, but partially because she didn't have skills. And as you may know, it took me a while to understand. Like, everybody knew I was the one who didn't understand. And only after a while, I was told that her parents died and the owner of the business felt responsible for her because he was a close friend to her parents. And she basically knew that she had the job, but she didn't really need to work there. And, you know, you may be frustrated about those things, but it leads you nowhere. So it's better to understand, accept that this is how culture works. And those are the values for those people. Relations are more important than maybe sometimes being efficient at the workplace. And here again, from a workplace, you will see on the right-hand side again, that cultures which are strongly collective cultures like Peru, India, China, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, that those are where hierarchy is accepted. While in Denmark, Sweden, the boss, sometimes when you enter the conference room, it's not easy actually to figure out who is the boss, just a facilitator of meetings. And just to give you more illustration, this is something what I was surprised that I was expected to know everything, and here some results of a survey that actually show that people from also strong collectivist cultures, here Spain would be such an example, and Portugal, they believe that their bosses should be able to answer all the questions. So what is the thing we can do about it, about this power distance in collective cultures? It's very important to try to understand the dynamics of power distance and adjust our behavior, adjust it in the way we act. So, for example, I knew I couldn't skip any hierarchy in communication, sending an email, for example. It should always be the person at the same level of hierarchy with mine. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. It would be even disrespectful. And we need to remember to adjust our behaviors towards our team, but also to adjust our behavior towards any business partners. And just we'll share another example with you. I remember once we had in Oman an American group partners coming, and their boss was placed in a different hotel and the team was placed in a different hotel. Both were 5-star hotels, but somehow the Arab hosts wanted to show the hierarchy for the boss, and it actually caused lots of logistic problems, and Americans were kind of pissed off because they actually enjoyed spending time together. But that was the way the status was seen in business hierarchies there. And one more thing, is about trust building and task orientation. So in individualistic cultures, we basically believe we have some rules, transparency, and relations are built on the rules. And as long as I see that you are open and you share information, we have the same goals, we work towards the same goals, it should work fine. While in collective cultures, relations have nothing to do with rules. They should be built on spending time together, getting to know each other, and showing your true face. I once was in dinner with some colleagues from China, India, and other Asian countries, and next to me was my business partner from China, and he was pouring wine to my glass like every 3 minutes, and I completely lost the notion of how much wine I have been drinking. And I asked him, oh, you are going to make me drunk very, very quickly. And he explained, Agnes, it's actually a proof that I can trust you, because when you are drunk and you are still a good person to be around, and I see that you are a normal person, I know I can trust you in business. And this actually blew my mind. I would have never assumed this kind of thinking. So we also should remember that once the relation is built, once the relation is there, people expect flexibility. So if there is anything on paper, any contract, anything has been agreed upon before, it doesn't matter, because we are in a relation. And in a relation, it's most important to take care of each other's needs and businesses and support each other. Rules are of less importance. And here again, some illustration from work environment research, and you will again see that collectivist cultures like Arab, Chinese, Turkish, Brazil, they are more relation-based oriented, while we are more task-oriented. What does it mean? For me, it meant mostly that I knew I had to dedicate time and energy in building those relations, but also setting ground rules regarding time and managing communications from the very, very beginning, discussing it so we understand, everybody understands it and accepts it, was really very, very important. And just a final recent example of how I could experience myself the collective culture mindset. The beautiful students on the picture, I met them in January and February. I taught them some classes, and there were some students who never attended, and this is why they failed. And the behavior of those students from Ethiopia and Kenya was actually a good example of how collective cultures think. Polish students would never argue with this. Actually, they would believe, okay, that is fair. We worked, those guys didn't, and they failed. While those guys actually during the break in classes, they tried to coach the girl who failed, and they tried to actually approach me and discuss that they would work together, that I should set another deadline for her, and that that they actually hoped she could still pass the course. So that was a collective mindset. And in many collective cultures, there are proverbs that convey more or less the message that you can see on the slide. Strict rules are for foreign people, for our out group, while for the inner circle, for our relatives, we can always interpret the rules. Whenever I work in cross-cultural settings, I try to think, okay, collective values, individualistic cultural values, but I always try to switch the positions from time to time and remember that when I may get frustrated that people don't do things the way I want them, or don't discuss, or don't cooperate, or don't deliver on time, that I should try to look from their perspective, the perspective of their values and their priorities. So I am not pushy, I am just goal-oriented. Maybe for them I am pushy because their world looks different. There are many interesting correlations related to individualistic and collectivistic cultures. Just recently, I heard many opinions that individualistic countries, the US, the UK, they handle the worst COVID because, as you may guess, because we are individuals, we know what to do, we have our opinions, we can rebel, we can have interpretation of what we are told to. We don't respect that much the leaders there, because we are the same, while the cultures with collective cultures, they actually handled COVID much, much better. Thank you so much. As you see, this is actually a topic that you could dig deeper and deeper, and I still have probably 1 minute. I would like to share with you 2 books that I highly recommend, that are easy reads and will provide you with lots of very kind of like toolbox information, and they probably would be like a great follow-up on this lecture if you find it any useful. So just a quick sharing of the books. So here you can see The Culture Map by Erin Meyer, a very, very good book which actually describes step by step different areas of teamwork and how to handle them in cross-cultural environments. And another one would be by Gurnek Baines, and I hope I can find it here. Maybe not. So I will just type it for you. Gurnek Baines, if you Google this author, you definitely find his book. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer now or later. You can also contact me by email, and I wish you the best of luck in being situation smart in any cross-cultural settings, interfaces you may be actually put in.
Thank you so much, Agnieszka. Thank you for that. I really like situation smart. That really stands out. And for someone like me who has lived both in the individualistic culture and the collaborative and communicative culture, I've seen like the advantages and disadvantages of both. So yes, it's very interesting to re-see them in this presentation as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and wish you all the best for the rest of today's presentations. Goodbye.
Thank you.